again call to order the Shakopee School Board meeting of December 14th. Sarah, will you please call the roll?
Talent. Here. McMeon.
Still here.
Haas.
Here.
Romansky. Here. Swanson.
Partially.
Tucker. Here. And Bowerman.
Yes, ma'am. Happy. All right. We will continue with our agenda as is normally the case. Actually, I have three quick good news items, and then we're going to move to the gentleman who would like to speak to the board. Bear with me as I find those good news items. Hold on. I got them right here. We like to read good news items, things that are positive things that are happening in the district. I've got three of them. First one is congratulations to the Shakopee High School and LEAD. If you don't know what that is, that's the Leaders in Education and Diversity student group, for winning the Salvation Army's Warm and Fed Challenge. They collected 4,403 items that were donated to the cause. They were awarded with a special pep rally. Who was it for the Vikings game? Chad Greenway? And Anthony Barr. So outstanding. We're very proud of the Shakopee High School group for helping our community. So congratulations to them. Number two, several of our schools participated in the Hour of Code. This is an international program that gives students an introduction to coding. Interesting. Our one-to-one devices allowed us to be part of that event. So some of the technology that we are implementing. And the third item is Principal McCloskey reported that 5 East students had poems published in a book entitled Eloquence. Eloquence. For me, that was. The poems were written in 8th grade English and submitted last spring and published this fall. So congratulations to those students. All right. Now, are there any who would care to speak to the board? If so, please come forward. I think there's somebody. He is the most patient person I've ever seen in my life.
It's got nothing to do with taxes, I promise. Oh, yeah, there you go. I may not have brought it, no.
I'll share with you. I'll share with you.
Okay, there we go.
There you go. Go this way.
Thank you. There you go, Mary.
And sir, tell us your name again.
Oh, yeah, my name is Matt Rudy.
Matt.
Rudy, R-U-D-I, sorry.
So just for context, Matt, when things like this come before the board that we don't really know what the topic is, we may not be in any position to really respond. So we'll obviously listen and see what you have to say, but if you're looking for a definitive answer, it may be difficult for us to do.
I get it, that's fair.
Go ahead.
All right, so a couple of weeks ago, I had gone to the school conferences for my daughter, who was in the junior high, and had spoken with several of the teachers there, specific around the 4-point grading scale. And I wanted to get a little bit more information around that methodology. And what you have before you is a typical layout of an exam on the 4-point grading scale. You'll have maybe 3 questions in the 1-point degree of difficulty, 3 questions in the 2-point degree of difficulty, and maybe 4 questions in the 3-point degree of difficulty, and then maybe 9 questions in the 4-point degree of difficulty. Now, I asked my daughter, I said, well, how are you doing in one of her topics or subjects? And she said, well, I got one wrong in the 4-point scale, so therefore I can't get an A anymore. I can get all the other questions right, but if I get one wrong in the 4-point section, I'm done. I was completely dumbfounded by that. And obviously when we're in a time where we're trying to engage children in math and science, some of the more challenging topics, I understand you may not have an answer tonight. Why are we introducing this level of complexity and another obstacle to our children to say, no, stay away from the tough subjects. You really want to get over to the easy ones because you're going to have to deal with that 4-point grading scale. I asked the teachers, I said, where is this coming from? We have to do it. We're told to do it. It's mandated. Okay. So that's the big question. Why are we doing this? What is it we're trying to achieve by going with this method? And gosh, I'd like my child, and I'm sure everyone would like their child to say, yeah, you know, science and biology is tough, but I know if I work hard and I get 85% of it right, I'm going to keep going. If I get one wrong, and you're gonna cross me off, I may not take that biology class. I may not take that human anatomy class. I don't think that's what we want to do. So that was my topic of the evening. But
So I think what we'd like to do, I don't feel equipped whatsoever to respond. I think it's important we get you, we have your name and contact information. What I'd like to do is to go back and confer with administration, get a little bit more detail, and then we can follow up, either with an explanation, here's why it's happening, sir.
Right.
Or maybe we've got mixed messages or mixed stories, or we can explain or what have you. So
Right.
now it looks like I may have a board member over here who'd like to comment.
Is that okay?
Sure. it is.
Okay.
Opportunity.
What you're talking about is called standards-based grading. And my son and your daughter are in the same school and have experienced the same thing.
Right.
And I have had questions about it, and I have brought it up, and I want you to know that there are merits to standards-based gradings, and there are shortcomings to standards-based gradings. And one of the things that our district is looking at right now is this exact topic.
Okay.
So, but if you want more information, we can certainly.
Well, I mean, ideally, I'd like to maybe just have just for you guys to have a discussion and say, is this the right direction to go? And have our kids undergo that type of methodology for grading. If you decide, yep, this is 100% the best thing for our kids to do that, you know, that's the decision. But if you re-examine and say, why? Why are we doing that? That'd be great too.
So that's what
Yeah, and actually, thanks for bringing it to the table, because it wasn't that many weeks ago when we were having this internal dialogue ourselves of trying to figure out what's best for our model now and going forward. The only thing that, because I know we're not going to solve it here, the only piece that I've often heard of is when you're setting up a standards-based, or let's say your son or your daughter wants to be a heart doc, and in the 1 point section, it's their vocabulary and the jargon around being a doc. But the 4 point scale is you have to understand how the heart works to get that part right.
Yeah.
Getting one of those wrong means the patient dies, versus using a slip of a vocab on a scaled project might give you an example of how they could give some different points to different parts of the exam.
Right.
I would also share with you, we don't all agree on standards-based grading right now. And I think that at the end of the day, there will be a hybrid that we come up with that we can all agree to. I don't think our strongest suit right now as a district is a consistent, explainable grading system. So you bringing it to the table makes a lot of sense, and it encourages us to go sooner than later on the topic.
Okay. Well, great. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you for your patience.
Yep.
I'm Kip Johnson. I want to actually comment on this very quickly, and I won't take up, because you all want to go home, and so do I. I found myself in the same position as Mr. Rudy and Sean, and was beside myself during the first quarter with our son who's at West. And so I had an email exchange with the teacher, and she explained standards-based grading. Do I still get it? No, I'm old school, and I'm a 90, 80, 70, 60 guy. That's what all my students get. And I said, wow, do you need this? She explained it, and it absolutely made sense. I think one of the biggest problems is that it's not been communicated very well, especially given that only some of the teachers or some of the departments have moved to it. And so I think this goes to your point, Doc Thompson, and that is, it's got to be communicated to the parents what's going on. And even in the family or the parent nights, that wasn't discussed. Now that I know what it is, I can't still say I can explain it if you ask me, but I get it, and I know my son isn't going to, he's not a great hawk, and neither are we, but he's not going to start getting C's where he was always getting A's because the grading scale has changed. The bottom line is communication. So just, and if you can get teachers to do that, I think it'll all be good.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, let's move on with the agenda. We've got an agenda that's been presented. Rod, do we have any modifications to the agenda?
We do, and we made a great decision to delay the 10.1.
Yep.
Update from our Excellence with Equity team until January.
Okay.
So I'll ask that you remove that altogether and have Sarah place it on the January calendar.
So other than that change, we have an agenda in front of us. Do I have a motion to accept the agenda with that change?
So, second?
Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion passes. We have the agenda. Let's move on to consent. Is consent staying the way it is?
Yep.
Okay, no changes to consent. Do I have a motion to accept consent?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor, any discussion on consent? None. All those in favor of accepting the consent items and approving them as is, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. We have consent. So we will move in the order of the agenda. So with that, we're going to actually start with Nancy and her team.
Fun stuff.
Yeah. Hey, let's talk education. How about that?
All right, the fun stuff. All right. Good evening, everyone. I'll just do introductions.
Thank you for your patience too, Ray.
Because I just wanted, Rod and I thought it'd be a great idea for you to kind of see our whole teaching and learning team. So I'll just start down here. Ed Cox is our teaching and learning supervisor. He's doing a lot of our day-to-day operation of the CAPS program, as well as facilitating the work of our areas of interest from a curriculum point of view, and lots of other stuff that we give. I give all of them as other duties as assigned. Ryan Kaminga just joined our team this year. He's our teaching and learning coordinator. He's working with all the secondary core curriculum, as well as some of our district-wide teams and professional development. And right now, he's buried every day under the registration guide. So we're working on that. Erin Heilman, some of you would know her. She's been in the district for a while as an HP teacher. She replaced Dale Anderson as our HP and Innovative Programs Coordinator since Dale moved on to another position. And then Nika and Summer is our teaching and learning supervisor, works with a lot of our elementary and early childhood programming. So just wanted to do those introductions. You received a handout last Thursday, and I do have some hard copies if we wanted to share
Around.
around.
Nancy,
Okay.
can I clarify, you gave us one before. Did it change from that one? Because that's where I took all my notes on an older version.
Yeah, you know, at the end of the document is, because we still had our TIC teams, articulation teams ongoing, there were some changes, especially in the area of business and entrepreneurship. So that was updated, and the rest of the pieces were not included in the last learning session. So I just wanted to make a few remarks, and then most of it is really just question and answers from you. But I wanted to highlight a couple of things in your board packet that I'm excited about, and that our team is excited about. Obviously, we have a number of new courses that are aimed at our 9th and 10th graders that are part of the, I would say, our introduction to our programs of study and our areas of interest. So you see, last year, as you know, we made a number of changes at the middle level. We are starting to roll up. So that means a lot of the changes that are being proposed for the 16-17 school year are impacting our 9th and 10th graders. I also want to highlight that we're starting a new accelerated English scope and sequence beginning in grade 6 and grade 9. That will also roll up in succeeding years. We also are launching our Physics First implementation, so we'll have physics going into 16 and 17, and AP Physics 1 as an option as an advanced course. And then a brand new accelerated course sequence that'll begin in 6th grade for science. And then our 2nd grade task force is off and running, doing similar work as 1st grade last year. Again, trying to avoid that fade effect from all-day K, so we're rolling that up as well. And we have tentative agreement. We'll know more on Wednesday when we meet with River South, but right now we believe we'll open a 3rd satellite program with our partners being River South, which is Valley Fair, Mystic Lake, Canterbury, and the Renaissance Festival. So also just one more item around kind of what's our next steps here after we discuss what you saw in the packet. We plan to email you electronically the registration guides for the middle school and the high school. As you know, we made some significant changes to the middle school guide last year, so you won't see as much change there. You will see a beginning of a redesigned high school registration guide that will change the next couple of years as we make the change to the academy approach. But we're pretty excited about how it is changing, and because of that, I want to make sure Reggie knows we can't do strike-through on the registration guide, especially at the high school, because it's a completely different format. So what I think we'll do is just send you electronically also the old one, so that if you wanted to do some comparisons, you could do that. I know, it's too, the whole thing would be a strike-through, Reggie. I can't help it. I'm sorry.
That's the toughest thing he's heard all day.
Well, it's the guy who reads every word of these things.
So you will see the registration guide then and have that in hand over the break. We'll be looking for final approval of the work that you see here, as well as the registration guide at the January 11th meeting. And then for us, that really means that beginning in late January, early February, we start moving towards implementation. That'll take us all the way through into the fall. So I just wanted you to make sure you understood kind of what's the process of the plan. Now, questions?
Could I just tee up with a comment? You know, we often talk about having a rock star team or an all-star team. You all remember coming on board not that long ago, and it was just one other person sitting in front of us to try to do all the work for a very large district. And hiring is a gift, and I think Nancy has done a really excellent job of putting together this all-star team of folks here. I would also point out that as difficult as the conversation is and will be about that we talked about earlier this evening, the investment and the return on investment, even though one thing is about bricks and mortar and capital, but our general fund and our operating fund is buying these types of people to make these opportunities happen for kids. And I know as a board, you guys understand the unbelievable amount of work that is going on, but this is blowing smoke must be a popular kind of terminology tonight, but I am not blowing smoke when I say I have never worked with such an aggressive, positive go forward to make sure that if your kid is an 8th grader, that they're going to get the experiences as quickly as possible, because we really have a system in place that has gotten us to the point where we are beating everybody else in our growth and our progress. But frankly, most of us understand it isn't about MCA tests and stuff anyway. Look at what we're going to be offering our kids. Look at the CAPS experience that we're offering our kids. I don't know where else you would go around us, even the Golden Triangle. You're not going to get this type of an education. And so I'm just so terribly proud of the group, and I think sometimes you feel more appreciative after you go through what we go through to make things happen. But kudos to the team, because we all know what you're doing. Now it's our job to make sure that this gets to Doc's point earlier. We have to publicize the good things you guys are doing, because the bricks and mortar, anybody can. Sorry, Wold. But anyone can throw the bricks and mortar together and buy furniture on wheels. It's about what's happening in those classrooms. And I'm absolutely rambling, and I'm absolutely proud of the work you guys are doing, and it does not go unnoticed. So thank you.
I should just mention too, just because it's been something I've heard a lot from the community since I started here 3 years ago, there are new areas that we've never offered curriculum before. Computer sciences is a program of study now, biomedical. Our whole healthcare core is beginning to change because of it. New music technology and our whole area around electronic composition. So it's exciting when you look at some of the new opportunities we're going to be able to give our kids. So good stuff. And that takes not just this team, but all of our teachers who invest a lot of time working on helping us come forward with these proposals as well.
And another thing, it is important that we don't just keep adding. we must reduce as well. So we have to make tough decisions, but as we go forward, we're doing that. So it's not just, can I have another scoop, can I have another scoop? It's, I've noticed you doing a nice job of getting rid of some of tough calls, tough decisions, but as we look at developing these high-tech, high-demand kinds of courses, you're doing the right thing by eliminating the things that we always, in education, we always just let them hang on forever and hope the heck 1 year kids will take them, and that doesn't lead us anywhere. So kudos on that as well.
All right, let's open this up to comments from the board. I'll start with Sharon.
I was at the curriculum meeting a couple of weeks ago, and I walked away, and I'm like Rod, I'm almost speechless at what our registration guide looked like last year and the years prior versus what it's going to look like in the next year to 4 years. And having a child who's in that transition period, having 2 children, knowing what you're doing and not forgetting about them, and that how excited I am for their opportunities. I cannot thank you enough, but I also want to say that you're right. The teachers that are implementing these new courses, that are suggesting these new courses and willing to take on whatever it takes to learn and engage these kids in this type of coursework, I'm so proud of our community, our school community right now. So thank you.
Other comments? Mary?
I want to know what happened to the students that fall in the crack with, especially with physics.
Yeah, so this will be an algebra-based physics, and our regular sequence is they complete Algebra 1 in 8th grade. And so they'll be in geometry as 9th graders. We have actually found, and I know this from having put in physics first in another district that we won't talk about, but it actually strengthens their math skills to do physics in 9th grade. Because it's sort of an applied algebra second scoop, I would call it. And I can let Ed talk because Ed is our science guy, and Ryan as well has a math background. But I actually think it really is a helpful thing that is going to be a positive for a lot of our students that maybe aren't as strong in math. I don't know if you guys want to.
Yeah, when you look at what kids are doing in 9th grade math, it correlates really tightly to what they would be doing in 9th grade science then. So they complement one another, and allows, you know, the kids that you're talking about where we need to provide intervention, things like that, that you're able to really build that in because they're relying on one another versus, so you're doing geometry and algebra over here and then you have biology over here, let's say, or a physical science course that's not as math heavy, they're not as well related.
I was asking what physics being, a person takes physics, normally in 12th grade, what will happen with the students in between?
So how are we cycling?
So, yep,
What will
so,
happen to the students that when they are taking physics in their senior year? What will happen to them?
so we'll still have an elective option for students who want to pursue a second physics course that would be more calculus-based, Mary. And it's actually listed as one of the new courses. It's AP Physics C. And we're still gonna hang on to the CIS physics class for another year or two for those kids who might want that option, that are kind of in this transition of phase in and phase out. Yeah,
Transition.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, so there will still be those options for students.
Okay, there will be options for them.
Can I add on to that? You mentioned that next year there'll be, that the normal course for 9th graders will be physics, and then for those who are advanced, it will be AP
Yep.
physics.
AP Physics 1.
Which physics course are our advanced physics 9th graders taking right now?
They're not taking either of those courses.
Okay.
So they're taking a homegrown accelerated course, And the decision that we made moving forward was to go with AP Physics 1, which is similar in a lot of ways, but not exactly the same. Those students, as they roll forward, as Nancy mentioned, those that want that option and mathematically are ready for that, they will take AP Physics BC, which is your traditional engineering, calculus-based course. In the meantime, we will continue to have the CIS offering for those kids if they want to continue physics, and they may choose other science electives when they're seniors. It doesn't have to be physics.
Other questions?
A comment?
Yeah.
I was at the Curriculum Advisory Council as well, and I brought this up to Nancy, and I'll just say it again for the benefit of the board. But there's a lot of great stuff in here. I really love this public advocacy class. I might take it.
Well, I think we had about 70 people in here who lived this tonight.
Anyways, it was about the business and entrepreneurship part of it, and the marketing and sales class. The intro to 9th to 10th grade is business dynamics, and I struggle with that being an opening class for marketing, because I don't feel it's going to grab the marketing components needed to get someone to understand what marketing truly is, to want to follow it grades through 12. So this one really bothers me. Nothing else bothers me, but this one really bothers me.
So we did give that feedback to the business articulation team because we met with them after the CAC council. And what they agreed and disagreed to some degree. They wanted to continue to leave the business dynamics there because they thought it was a good survey course for some kids. But one thing they did is if you look at in the orange, Angela, where it says marketing 1, that will have no prereq. So any student who really wants to do marketing can go straight into that course.
So a 9th grader could take business dynamics and marketing 1?
Yes.
Other comments? I have a few, then we'll wait for everybody else to get done.
I would just be repeating what everybody else said. I think this looks fantastic. Having a 13-year-old, an 11-year-old, and then what's my other one? 8? 9?
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to see them all three go through this progression and to see how things, tighten up or what you ultimately decide to swap out or whatever as the years go on. But that's already been said before. It was mentioned what is our return on investment. I so badly wanted to say it loud, just hang in there for a little bit here. I think you're about to have your doors blown off by the return, but so good job.
Just to make sure we hear from Aaron, could you make just a comment on what you're most looking forward to? I mean, we've talked about gifted and talented services for 4 or 5 years, and finally it's here, and it's going to be something that we're going to count on the board for support. But what's the idea behind doing what you're hoping to do with the gifted and talented that's in this piece?
I think our biggest piece that we rolled out this year was the Young Scholars piece, and I think that's something that we're very excited about. Looking at kind of almost gifted from an intervention standpoint of looking at those kids who aren't typically serviced, who aren't typically maybe looked at, and really making a positive impact. Our Young Scholar teachers are pushing into all of our kindergarten rooms, so they're providing creativity, divergent and convergent thinking skills for all kindergartners, and then they're pulling out first and second graders in small groups, and just seeing those kids' faces light up and having a totally different, I think, view of themselves as students, and feeling that positive impact has been huge. And it's definitely trickled up to the rest of the HP department as well, so I think that's a really big key piece is when we talk about equity, when we talk about gifted ed is really good education for all kids, and so I think having that new kind of view and framework is a really positive thing.
Mary?
Dickie, what aspects are you going on judging the student stuff that we didn't do before?
For Young Scholars?
Yeah, for young scholars.
So we look at, it's a national program that was started in Fairfax County, Virginia, and they look at what they call the 3 A's. So students who need access, affirmation, and then also advocacy. So students who maybe wouldn't necessarily have one of those pieces for whatever reason, be it from maybe their parents never graduated from high school, maybe their parents aren't English speakers. And so having teachers really, I kind of think of it as talent scouts, like looking for those kids. And I think it's been really powerful and kind of a good mind shift and change for all of our teachers to have that as well.
So it's a talent development program, and what they do is, it's not based on test scores or anything like that. They go in and they observe kindergarten, first grade, second grade kids, and they look for those unusual kids that just really think differently or have really good critical thinking or creativity, ask the unusual questions, and then start to pull them together in some pull-out lessons that really develop those critical thinking or creativity skills. The other thing that maybe Rod mentioned too, a little bit later in the year, we're probably gonna see if we can talk with you again about a change in our secondary service model for HB services. We decided to kind of delay that a little bit later till we're further into staffing, because it would require some staffing elements. But it would actually be our first steps in serving what we would say is our truly highly gifted students, which right now our program is mostly an achievement-oriented program based on standardized test scores. And then also doing some things around creativity and talent development at the middle level as well. So it would be geared towards the middle level. But we thought it would make sense to have that conversation more a little bit later in the year.
And for real clarity, that's that real small percentile of students who truly blow it out of this chart. And in many cases, even socially or other ways, don't fit into the typical environment. And we probably have missed the boat on that over the years. And so it's identifying those kids. It's a lighthouse type of a program, you know, that kind of thing. And so we'll be coming back on that too during staffing.
All right.
I'm ready, Reggie.
All right. You know me, I have questions.
Good.
Actually, Erin, you kind of walked into this one, so I wasn't going to ask this one, but I'm very intrigued and actually very bullish about Dutch Scholars. When it was explained to me, I actually wanted to say, why can't we do this for more kids, not just the underserved? But what I'm going to ask you is, there's no answer tonight, but I always want to see when we roll out a new program, I want to know how we're going to measure it, so that a year later we can say, this is what happened. We started here, this is where we ended. Whether it's successful, moving sideways, didn't work the way we anticipated, this is why we're going to make a change. So just kind of be on notice. I absolutely want to.
Data for you already.
I want to see how this
works.
works.
I told her, you think I know
Good.
that?
All right. That goes for all programs, but this one I'm really interested in. All right, so just, these are kind of procedural, Nancy, and I think they're fairly quick, but just help me understand. So I'm looking at this kind of a chart.
Yep.
All right.
Which one are you on?
I happen to be on the first one, just the arts and communication. So it's a general question. I'll use one as an example, and I'm looking at theater arts. You got my buddy here in mind. If a student, for whatever reason, doesn't take theater, but they want to take acting 1 or acting 2, what I'm trying to get at is the notion of prereqs.
Yep.
They're later on in their high school career, and they want to do something, but I wish I'd done that in 9th grade, but I didn't. Can they get into, not every course, but just can they take intermediate courses without having to have the intro course if they pass up?
So here's the guidance that we gave all the articulation teams. Intro courses cannot have a prereq. So nothing in this first column can have a prereq.
To get into it.
To get into it. Now we're going to the next one, okay? Intermediate, we suggest that they be very careful about prereqs, so there would be a combination of courses with no prereqs and maybe some where you don't have a choice. You know, some obvious ones might be ceramics 1 and 2. You can't get into 2 and take unless you take 1. That would be an example. But our teachers are very smart in the sense that they understand the more gatekeeping you do, the less likely your class is going to fill. So a good example is what we just talked about with Angela, where we said, if we have kids who really know already that they want marketing, why can't they just go straight into marketing? And so the answer to that was no prereq on marketing 1. So that would be an example.
And I realize there'll be case-by-case, situational, course-by-course, but the thought that I want to leave is I don't want us to be prohibiting kids
go crazy with prereqs.
who get into their junior year and go, you know, I'd like to do this.
Yep.
And, oh, no, you missed that 10th grade, you can't.
So I want to clarify one thing too, Reggie. When you see the grades up there, that's for our teachers, that's been their target. But like if you look at theater, that's available 9 through 12. So if a student would want to take that course and it happens to be a prereq, they could still take that as, I know it limits their time, but it is available to them.
Well, and that goes to, what's the term, Nancy, we heard it down in Nashville, completers?
Completers, or concentrators,
Yeah,
completers.
so I don't think we've addressed that, that's
No,
probably a
we haven't
bigger
made
topic, but
decisions. Yeah.
I have some concerns about the whole completer notion, because then I think you take kids who wanna, I'll say dabble,
Mm-hmm.
or explore, or whatever, and so again, more of a rhetorical comment. So that's number one. Number two, I'm assuming students can take more than one intermediate course if they wanna just broaden their horizons.
That's
Good.
typical.
Okay.
Yep.
Another one is, as we look at this, because you're asking us to come back in January and basically approve these documents, right?
Well, it'd be approving, now, keep in mind that on the areas of interest, this is heavy draft. We would
Right.
expect this to change. If you look at the assumptions that's in the
Yeah.
front part of the narrative, this is gonna change over the next couple of years. But you would be absolutely approving all the course changes that are on those listed for middle school
Yes.
and for the high school.
So you're really not, okay,
Yeah.
that's the answer to my question.
And
So
you'd
we're
also-
not approving this, you're not asking us to approve this.
No.
Because my
It's not.
question is, what's the timeline to go from orange to blue to black? There's a
Yeah.
lot of unknowns at this point.
That's correct.
That's saying that by the time we open the doors and we go live with the
Yeah.
academies, that will be worked out.
Our goal would be that we'd like to see the majority of the courses in place by the fall of 2018, but again, that will be dependent on how much we can do in any given year. But we'd like to see the majority of it done.
And my final comment was, I know you're addressing this, but I'm assuming one of the elements that's gonna dictate what we're able to do is instructor availability. Do we have the teachers who know how to teach these different courses? It may be great to say, gosh, I'd love to have filmmaking. You know, it's a potential course, but if we don't have somebody who's
Yep.
capable of teaching it.
So we're coming across several areas like that where I'll just tell you, our training budget is high compared to what it used to be, and it's high because we're sending people to AP training for the first time, to Project Lead the Way training for the first time in areas like biomedical and computer science. We are looking for people to help us build curriculum like in music technology. Our music and choir and band people say we don't know how, but we're interested to learn, so we're putting plans together on how to help them do that and how to get them the training they need. So, you know, definitely there's some significant training components to some of these changes.
I would also want you to know that how we look at teacher licensure is also something that I would like to explore and I would like to work with legislature on, and that is, if we have nurses, let's use nurses. Boy, I sure hope a nurse can teach our kids. I sure hope a chiropractor can teach our kids. I hope a music producer can teach in these courses and not ding us and earn us. And so, as we look at business partners, we have to get real with our licensure issues. And I know our own teachers group has a certain amount of support for that. You know, train the trainer and breed from within when we can. But when we can't, we go out and we get the best out there, regardless of licensure. We go get them.
I look with great anticipation to see how this is all gonna shake out over the next couple of years, because I'm thrilled when I scribbled a lot of other notes around, wow, this would be a good idea, this course, what about this? This is gonna be paradigm shifting, to use that old trite phrase. I mean, this is just unbelievable, so very exciting. So really, at this point, this is a first reading, we don't need to take action on this, but come back in probably the first meeting in January.
Yeah.
You'll be looking for us to approve
All
these
the-
elements, the
All
course
courses,
changes.
new revised changes. If you look at the end, there's eliminated courses. We
Yeah.
are trying to eliminate about the same as we add that are brand new.
Great.
And then the registration guides as well.
That you'll send out to us.
Yeah.
Perfect. Any other comments? Thank you. Oh, Mary?
It's, I really like, did you include Spanish speakers with the course changes?
Yep, the World Language Department wanted to do some enhancement of their Spanish for native speakers. So they did some research, and we're starting to kind of build somewhat of a revised scope and sequence. So we'll have a revised Spanish for speakers 1 and 2.
I wanted to thank you for including them, because oftentimes their parents don't have any education at all. They think they are, for lack of a better word, stupid because they can't speak English. So you have a double support for teaching Spanish to people who already speak it and making them feel like they belong.
All right, thanks guys very much, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work. Thank you. Aaron?
I already have spreadsheets for you.
Yeah.
I've already.
She's got my number.
They have to come through our law school, you know.
Right.
So I've been learning a lot from them.
All right, we'll move on to item number 9.1, which is approval of the levy. Obviously, the topic of interest tonight. Mike, do you want to come forward and make a formal, short presentation?
Right. I think if we look at your, at the truth and taxation last slide on the second to last slide possibly, it'll have the numbers that we would be looking for the board to approve tonight.
Maybe for someone who might be at home, the board received in work session.
We had a truth and taxation, and then we talked about a number of, at the November 23rd board learning session, we did talk about the detail of the levy and how it affected tax rates and things like that. With Mike Koheisel was at that presentation as well. But again, we're looking at the proposed levy would be what we proposed, what went out on the tax sheets. This is the recommendation from the cabinet, from the administration, and we would say we should continue to levy the maximum, and these were the numbers for the general fund: 13,098,787.86. Community education, community service, 548,983.38, and the debt service again, which is our mortgage payment that we started with the new addition to the high school included in there, 18,906,524.44, for a total of 32,554,295.68.
And Mike, just for the benefit of, again, the board and anyone watching, we must take action tonight on the levy. We don't have another opportunity to revisit this from a timing perspective and put it in place.
Right.
We have to take action.
We have to take action, and then this will be reported to the state tomorrow, and it needed to be reported by the end of the month.
Okay. Any comments or questions for Mike, or in light of the discussion tonight?
Could you explain a little bit how a large portion of this is tied to state funding, so that it would be?
Right. Of the debt service, that's 18,906 local levy. We're actually, our debt service fund is 22 million. So that we get $4 million in state aid for the debt service. The general fund, there's like we talked about before, there's about 130 calculations on this to calculate all the different pieces. You can boil it down to about 60 that are new calculations, and then 60 that are looking back at the last few years and what we levied. And of the 60, I think we have about 5 that don't have state aid attached to them. So every one of them has some state aid. For community service, for example, we don't qualify for state aid for basic community service and the youth programs that we have, but early childhood family ed is almost $3 to the dollar on that program. So that's how the state aid works. There's that's what we would be looking at there.
Okay. Other comments or questions? All right. Looking for a motion at this point to accept the levy as proposed.
So moved.
Thank you, Mary. Second. Any other discussion on the levy? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the levy as proposed, as described, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. We have our levy. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
And if you want to just stay, you're going to cover the audit quickly as well.
Quickly. And I think do you have that
Oh, sure.
PowerPoint? We'll just
Oh, sure.
flash those up on the board.
Sure.
And again, not into too much detail, the executive committee of the board looked at the detailed stuff. We did talk again about it on November 23rd. We had a short presentation on the levy, or the audit as well. But our auditor, Berg and KDV, gave us an unmodified opinion, and that's basically our financial statements present fairly the financial accounting that we had happen in ending June 30th, 2015. The unmodified is the best we can get. Unmodified for the financial statements for the federal programs, because we've received more than $500,000 in federal aid, we have a single audit. Be able to check one federal program, and then we have the legal compliance opinion was unmodified as well. We had this internal control, lack of segregation of accounting duties, and preparation of financial statement was, we were helped by Berg and KDV on the financial statements. So we have that as an internal control finding. And then there was also a change in the accounting for the way we look at our pension benefits. All government entities have to report their portion of the state pension fund. So we have PERA and TRA, Public Employee and Teacher Retirement Associations. And so we have a portion of, we send money to them, so a portion of that money will come back to our employees, and we have to report that on our financial statements. The financial analysis on the next page shows that we have a general fund balance, which includes capital and general, transportation all roll into one, in the general fund of $7,774,000. Food service, you can see the numbers there. Held in trust for OPEB. OPEB is other post-employment benefits. For when some groups have bargained health insurance, we've gotten it out of most of the agreements, but for the people that still can get health insurance after they retire, we have $4.8 million to pay that down, to cover those expenses. In Minnesota, we can also keep retirees in our pool, in our health insurance pool, and so it kind of artificially inflates our cost, and so we can use that OPEB money to offset that as well. Next page, again, the summary, we had the unmodified opinion. The general fund is still above the board policy. The board budget assumptions for, actually we're kind of reviewing 15 and 16 to see where we came off of, when we got done with 15 now, we can kind of see if we're in line with 15 and 16 assumptions, and then we'll have 16 and 17 later this spring as well, to kind of get us where our budget will be going. And then we do approve the 16-17 budget in June, coming up in 2016. Yes?
Can I interrupt?
Yep.
For those who aren't finance or
Sure.
auditor type people, can you explain again what an unmodified opinion is?
Basically, they reviewed our books, and they, according to accounting principles, we're following all the rules.
Okay.
And there's no opinion on how we're spending it, or anything like that, but it fits within all the state guidelines.
It's a true and accurate representation of the financial state of the district. That's how I always thought.
So we would need a board action to accept the 2015 audit, 14-15, and I think you all had books and PDFs of the information as well.
I'll make that motion.
Great. Any other comments or discussion for Mike on the audit?
I would anticipate we will again win a finance award from the state, so if we look toward, when does that come out?
February, March,
But
yeah.
around February, March, I would anticipate yet another, that we're doing things the right way. We're doing all the things that.
Doing the things that
are
were required,
expected of us.
turning in the stuff on time.
Oh, Mary, yes.
Non-voter approved levies, what percentage of non-voter approved, with the board has control over, is really small, isn't it?
Well, on our whole budget, levy is 20% of our whole revenue expenditure. And of the voter approved, I would say that we're about in the $4 million range. I don't have the sheet right in front of me, so don't, but I think it was like $4 million range of the general fund is board approved, or you have some control of it. However, the control you have on that is also tied back to that state aid. So if you didn't take $1 here, you might lose $2 of state aid in some cases.
What I wanted to bring up was we have very, very little control over what the TNT people said we don't.
Right.
With voter approved and all the levies that we deal with, we don't have very much control over the aid that their tax statements.
We don't. You're correct.
And even in the other local levies, once you've instituted some of those actions, for example, the space for the all-day K, we can't just stop paying on it.
Right.
So we have to continue that. It's not like we can just choose to reduce that.
Right.
So I think Mary's point's a very good one. Voter approved, voters approved. We have to pay those bills, we float the bonds, they don't have a choice. The other local levies, we haven't instituted anything new. We're continuing the items that were there, and then all the formulas go into it that say that determine what state aid we get, in addition to the fact that if we chose to stop something that was optional, we might actually lose more state aid as a result.
Yes.
That's a fair statement.
Yes, that's a fair statement.
Okay. Any other comments on the audit? I will say thank you on behalf of the board, Mike,
Yes.
for all the work that your team does. And
I have a great team. Tyler Daning stepped up in the middle of the process,
That's right.
and he did a very good job.
thank you. Please recognize that for us. All right, so we have a motion on the table to accept the audit as presented. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. We have a, thank you very
Thank
much,
you.
Mike.
Thank you.
All right, we are basically at the end. Do we have any other items to address? Ron? Okay. Do we have any committee reports to discuss from the last time we met? You're smirking. You two are smirking.
Well,
Well,
because
we
the only
already
committee we
reported.
went to
Oh,
presented to
curriculum
us.
stuff, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, I will bring up one thing. I was at the ECFE Advisory Council, and they are working on creating more of a PTO feel to their advisory council to get more parents involved. So I think we'll see more parent involvement at such events.
Great. Other committee or actions? I only call to your attention, if you're interested, I sent out to you guys a summary from AMSD on the ESSA. Don't ask me to explain what that is, I can't remember, but it's basically the No Child Left Behind revised law. And it actually addresses, in some fashion, Rod knows this, licensure issues. And from a federal level, they're saying we need to be able to provide opportunities for experts in the field to be able to teach in classrooms. Now, how that trickles down to state and our district, I don't know. But very interesting to read, and I was very pleased. I'll make a personal statement that the gist of the law is to try to return more control to the states and to the individual school districts. Testing opportunities, testing options, funding choices, et cetera. So I was encouraged by that. So that's it for AMSD. Anything else? All right, I'm going to dispense with around the horn tonight since we've run a little late. Hope everyone's okay with that. All right, so upcoming meetings. January 11th, we have the board reorg meeting and business meeting. It's at 6 p.m. I have almost everyone's committee preferences. So when I have that complete, I will get that out to you guys so you have something to look at. We have our MSBA meeting coming up, which includes phase 1 and phase 2 training for somebody on the board who's got to do that. We have the wonderful opportunity to recognize Ms. Romansky as an all-state school board member, which he's inducted into that on January 14th. And then we have, excuse me, our board retreat on January 18th. I think you all know that. And then we have a board learning session the 25th, the 8th, learning session, business meeting, learning session on February 22nd. All right, any last comments?
I have a last comment.
Okay, I will add after you're done. So yours won't be loud too.
Welcome, big vice chair.
I just want to say tonight was spirited, exciting, passionate, emotional, lots of different words we could use to describe the comments from the gallery, all of which were clearly heartfelt. There's no question that people are feeling some pain, and this was more prickly than any of us ever would have hoped it to be. And for that, I'll offer a public apology for the unfortunate outcome, which we did not expect, nor plan, nor enjoy. That said, I also want to applaud my friend, Mr. Bowerman here. You held yourself in such a manner tonight that you led strong in the face of some significant adversity and frustration, and you were unwavering in your leadership and how you addressed each individual. You gave them their time, you gave them your consideration, you were genuine, and I am very pleased to sit next to a man with such integrity. So thank you very much for how you conducted yourself. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't know that I should say anything after that.
You will.
He does have a right hand.
No, I was going to actually, I'll echo many of your comments, which is tonight was an interesting night, interesting in a lot of ways, but it was truly democracy in action. It was truly the public sharing their feelings. None of us take that lightly. The fact that we passed the levy tonight was not something we take lightly. We really had no choice. We have to act. We have to pay our bills. What I regret, if you will, is not that we made a mistake, because I don't really believe we made a mistake. I think it's unfortunate that it's so confusing, and maybe we could have done a better job of communicating. We were talking about 285, and then we talked about 12.3%, what have you. The numbers didn't change. The way we talked about them changed. And I think we could have done a better job of that. And I accept personal responsibility for that as chair and as a board member. And I think we can do a better job of that. And anyone that we need to talk to afterwards, we'll do that. I spoke to the gentleman whose name I now forget, and the tangible example, and we went through it a number of times, like, I get it, I understand now. It's like an epiphany. So I think that we can get there if people will continue to engage with us, and I hope that they do. So thank you for your patience is what I was going to say. Thank you to each one of you for your patience and for your fortitude. With that, I will accept a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
It's your turn, yeah.
Second. Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion passes. We are adjourned.